there is that lingering question of whether they should wait before they buy. But when it comes to investing in real estate, experts say to buy and then wait. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. The best time to buy a home was 20 years ago, I think. So always real estate will appreciate, just a matter of how fast and how quickly. So I'm excited to hear what these guys have to say, the experts of real estate investing. So let's get started.
Right. And with that in mind, let's dive right into the topic, planning your next move, the future of real estate investing. So, Jojo, I want to get your thoughts on this first question of the day, which is how has the market been, do you think? How are the things in the first half of 2021?
Thank you, Michelle and Kenneth. Thank you for having me. And yes, very good question. So the leading real estate companies of the world, we are in over 70 countries. And definitely, generally, the global markets are doing good. In fact, some markets are doing great, like Oakland, New Zealand, Australia, US, parts of Canada. Of course, some markets like Philippines, Thailand, markets that are reliant on tourism, they are really, really affected. But overall, definitely, we had the survey last year and early this year, over 200 markets, majority are up. So definitely, the global real estate markets pretty much are up.
Right. And for Drew, given that we are still in the world of the pandemic, right? What do you think is the major change that the market has experienced prior to the pandemic?
Okay. Hi, Michelle. Thank you, Ken, for inviting me here. I think one of the major changes that we have experienced is that people right now, investors right now, are much more smarter. They have access to the information readily available, and that made the investing for them easily. Very easy for them. And at the same time, in connection with what George has mentioned earlier, the market will always be good. In any given situation, there's always a better opportunity for us. Like for July IQI Group, definitely we have doubled our sales since 2020 and until first half of 2021. And again, like what I mentioned last time, it's all about the creating the awareness that there's always an opportunity for investment. So there will always be someone out there who has some extra cash to invest in real estate.
Right. And Jojo, we were having this conversation with Drew before the start of our talk today, and we were talking about real estate as a solid investment. So would you say that this interest in real estate as an investment is something that's only happening temporarily? Or is it part of what people now call the new normal? Or do you think things will normalize to the way things were prior to the pandemic?
Oh, definitely real estate as an asset class is here to stay and has always been a favorite by investors. And I was discussing a while ago, when you're looking at real estate, you have two kinds of buyers. The end users who would keep on buying because they would use it, whether any day of the week, any month of the year. If they need the house, they will buy it for residents, for end use. Then you have the investors. The investors, like what Kenneth mentioned a while ago, that they would look for investments, and Drew mentioned they are buying because they know that during crisis, during even the pandemic, they would look for opportunities. And if you would look at asset classes all over the world, and not only in the Philippines, typically you have the real estate, then you have the stock markets or equities, and you have bonds or debts. And if you would look at debts or interest rates, they're going down. In fact, there are countries with zero or even negative interest rates. It means if you put your money in the bank, then it won't grow, right? And stock markets, we call it value rotation. So one stock would be good today, then the next day it would be a different stock. But it would come to an end because economies and business should go up first before really the stock prices would go up. But as an asset class, real estate has been stable, and investors worldwide, like what Drew mentioned, people would spare cash, would look for really, really good investment, real estate investment all over the world. And whether in New York, like where Kenneth is today, or in the Philippines and other parts of the world, there would be really good buys. So definitely, as an asset class, real estate investing would here to stay.
Right. Very strong points there from both Jojo and Drew. Now, Ken, I want to get your thoughts around in terms of location, right? So, which locations do you think are showing the strongest in terms of demands for condominium properties today? And do you think that this trend is something that has changed compared to pre-pandemic times?
Yeah, I think that the condo market has remained strong in key cities outside of Metro Manila, which is a trend that we started to see pre-pandemic, but I think as the pandemic happened, it was accelerated. So we've seen increase in leads for Cebu City at over 100% increase, Davao City at a astronomical over 800% increase in our leads. CDO has seen an increase, Marikina as well, and Caloocan. So in terms of key cities outside the NCR, there is growth. I think that this is accelerated due to people looking for more space in a work from home setup. They don't need to be in the NCR anymore. They can work in the provinces and still be efficient. I think that's a trend that we saw that the pandemic was a catalyst for. One thing that we also noticed was that fringe cities just outside of Metro Manila has seen an increase in leads as well. So I mentioned Marikina and Caloocan have seen those areas increase in demand, which I think will continue to stay at least in the medium term.
Right. And for Drew, given these trends in the locations, do you think that there are differences in terms of demand for condominium developments in different locations, or are we seeing these same trends throughout the country?
Yeah, just like what Kent has mentioned earlier, basically the pandemic has changed the behavior and preference of investors. So like what we have observed also is that a lot of investors right now are considering options outside Metro Manila. Before, it was difficult for us to sell something in Pampanga or something in Laguna. But with the pandemic, they were able to open up their minds and consider the fact that that could be the next investment for them, the big investment for them. And like what Ken has mentioned also earlier, inside Metro Manila, there are some key cities or areas wherein there's a huge demand right now compared to the other cities simply because of the lower price point. At the same time, there's more potential for growth.
Right. And Ken, going back to your point about the location, so locations, as you mentioned, to the north and the south of Metro Manila have been gaining momentum as real estate investment hotspots. Now, do you see this as becoming a more permanent trend, or is it just something that's happening temporarily?
We see it as a permanent trend. I think that with the infrastructure growth, really with the build program happening a number of years ago, those benefits we're now seeing the fruits from. So I think that because of the Central Luzon Link Expressway, the North-South Commuter Railway, SC Tech's expansion, Skyway extending all the way up to the north, these are opening up gateways that we haven't seen before. Both for commercial, residential, and logistics use. So with the rise of e-commerce and m-commerce, I think that we've become fairly mobile type of industry, and people can now live in further north or the deeper south and still have access to everything they need within the city, but have more space, have better value, like Drew mentioned, but still be able to access anything within Metro Manila very quickly.
Right. And for Jojo, so we've been talking about location, and it does sound that real estate overall is a solid investment, just like the point that you mentioned at the start of our conversation. But I want to get your thoughts specifically around investors who are thinking about buying condominiums. So how favorable do you think is today's climate for condo buyers and investors? And what do you think are the factors that buyers should consider, and you feel that it's an advantage for them at this point?
Yes, definitely condo living is here to stay. We saw trends not only in the Philippines but even worldwide, where people will be going to the suburbs because of the success of the work from home. And I think, like what Kenneth mentioned, because of the infrastructure developments. So going outside of Metro Manila and going to the suburbs would be a permanent effect of the pandemic. But definitely, urban living is here to stay as well. But of course, condominium developments and developers, they have to adjust. Even the offices, like in Chicago, our head office, they adjusted right away. You don't have to touch the elevator, even the gates, the doors. It's all using your phone. So, of course, the concern of safety and all, of course, bigger space in your office, in your team's office, department. You have to provide bigger space. So whether in urban or even suburb condo, remember prior to the pandemic, you have condominium developments in Bacoor, in Imus, in Cainta. These are fringes already. Even San Jose del Monte, because of the MRT7 and all, like what Kenneth mentioned, because of the infra developments, you have all of these possibilities, condominium developments in suburbs or catchment areas and condo living in urban areas. So definitely investing in condominiums is still here to stay. And definitely, and I want to, you mentioned about investing, and of course, we have to take a look at interest rates. And I think we would be looking at that in more detail. But if you would look at, I mentioned a while ago, bonds and interest rates are going down. If you would look at the 10-year bond in Japan, according to Bloomberg, it's 0.01%. So that's 1 basis point, 0.01% per year. So that's a 10-year bond. If you would look at the 10-year bond in the US, it's 1.27%. So it means if I have a condominium, I invested in condominium and renting it out, if it's doing 6 to 8% per annum net, it's really, really doing great. And I check if you put your money in the bank, time deposit, 1 year it would earn less than 1%. If it's 5 year, it would be around 2.25%. So condominium, whether you would stay in there as a residence or as a home office or for investment, definitely it's a good time to buy for condominium. Especially right now, you have a lot of discounts and some perks. So investing in condominium is here to stay.
And Drew, I see you nodding there. Do you have the same sentiments and insights as Jojo?
Yeah, definitely. Again, pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, we're thinking that maybe there would be no buyers, right? But then the pandemic opened up a new market, a better market, a bigger market, because right now, people can invest without the down payment. Before, you have to shell out 10% at least, right, to buy a condominium. But right now, there are actually no down payment options. At the same time, there's a lot of incentives. So that gives us a lot of opportunity for a huge market to be able to invest. And that's a great opportunity for everyone. Again, that's where we are actually coming in. We're able to tap that market. And again, if we're just going to educate everyone about how they can invest in real estate safely and effectively, then a lot of people will be investing.
Right. And follow-up question for you, Drew. Of course, when we talk about investments and investors, we are not only talking about local investors, but foreign investors as well. So I want to get your thoughts around, because the Philippines is attracting not just those local investors, right, but the foreign ones as well. So what are your thoughts in terms of what makes the Philippines attractive to these foreign investors, and how can the real estate industry leverage this in growing interest overseas?
Okay, so a lot of investors, foreign investors, are actually interested in the Philippines because of two things. Though, number one, our rental yield. We're actually second in Asia when it comes to highest rental yield, around 6%, I believe, next to Indonesia. And then the second is that we have the highest capital appreciation. I think in 2019 we have recorded around 29.4% appreciation, and that's crazy. That's quite higher compared to the other Asian countries and even other locations in the world. And that's why a lot of people are actually inclined and invested in the Philippines since 2016. and we have recorded tremendous growth in the past 10 years. I would say we can actually improve, or we could probably be the next hotspot all throughout the world, or worldwide, if we're going to at least improve our three things that actually drive the demand in other key areas. Right now, like what Joe just said, Canada is actually reaping so much. There's a huge demand in Canada, Australia, and also in US, from the Chinese market as well, simply because for education, for tourism, and for retirement. So if these three things, we can actually improve this operations or systems that we have for that one, I think we can boost our demand for investment in the Philippines.
Right. Very interesting. And for Jojo, so Drew mentioned three things, right? So for you, what would you tell our foreign investors who are considering to invest in Philippine real estate? Like what would be your top three?
Well, pretty much Drew mentioned them, but he forgot price, because the price of Philippine real estate would be 1/5 of Hong Kong, Singapore, and Tokyo. In some cases, even 1/10 of the price, and with the yield of more than 6%. And I was saying, if you invest in stock, of course, stock market would be higher, but it would be very fluctuating. So the price is a lot lower compared to Hong Kong, Singapore, and Japan. So definitely we are there. So apart from price and appreciation, and of course higher returns, of course, the quality. The quality is not that far from, of course, Singapore is, sort of like a gold standard in Southeast Asia. But our developments, especially Alveo, Ayala developments, and our top developers, they are close to really our peers in the bigger or more expensive markets. So definitely, you have to look at the reputation of the developer, the safety and quality of the developments, and of course, we are still selling lifestyle. So of course, like what Kenneth mentioned, you have all of this infrastructure in place. You have all of these, from the airport, you can easily go around the city and go to your condo. So all of these, it's really ultimately lifestyle. So price, lifestyle, and returns. I think that those are the winning difference of the Philippines.
That's true. That's true. And interesting points there from Jojo. In terms of price, Ken, would you say that these prices have remained flat, or would you think that they've continued to appreciate? And another a follow-up question to that is, how is the capital appreciation in Metro Manila performing compared to, as Jojo mentioned, other big cities in Asia, such as Singapore and Hong Kong?
Yeah, I think that prices have, they've appreciated, but the pandemic has definitely slowed things down, which is why, as they mentioned before, there are exciting offers that developers have given with flexible payment terms, little down payment, and incentives to brokers to push it as well. In terms of how we do compared to our Southeast Asian neighbor friends, I think that we, like Drew said, have an advantage when it comes to capital appreciation. I think that the pandemic has given resiliency to certain asset classes. I think the high end sector, if you're looking at the secondary market, has remained, have kept the price fairly high. They haven't really fluctuated too much because the holding power is strong, and I think you get that in certain markets like the Philippines. So, you have seen luxury doing well, remaining high. You've seen a lot of transactions happen in the more affordable market in the mid sector, where people are going for end use, looking to move out of their current situation quickly. So transactions are happening quite often there. So there are opportunities, and I think that they are attractive compared to other Asian countries.
And in terms of attractiveness, just going back to the point earlier about comparing the metro and its fringes, Jojo, what are your thoughts in terms of the marked shift in investment attractiveness for these two locations? What do you think does it compare to outside of Metro Manila, and which locations have the best potential, you think?
Well, probably one of the permanent effects of the pandemic, and as mentioned by Kenneth and Drew, is people are investing outside of NCR, which is even prior to pandemic. We saw that trend, starting. But probably the more important trend, I would say, is the demand for a bigger space, whether in a condominium development, whether in a suburb, or whether even in rural areas. People who want they want bigger space, bigger office, bigger residence, bigger home office. So I would say, whether it's for end use or whether for investment, and as I mentioned a while ago, of course, lifestyle, quality, and of course the reputation of the developer. Those are key because you don't want to invest in something that won't finish, or after 3 years, the condominium development is doesn't look good anymore, right? So you want a reputable developer and of course a property manager as well. So in terms of Mark, apart from it's not like is it urban going to suburbs or rural areas? Yes, we are seeing that one. But as I was mentioning a while ago, or urban living is here to stay as well. But there would be adjustments, there would be refinements in condominium, not only a residential condominium, but even office. So you have bigger spaces, safety concerns, the vents and all. So I would dare say definitely urban living, condo living would be here to stay, but there would be refinements. And I think brokers, developers, and property managers, of course, would have to listen to consumers, to buyers, especially the concern for safety, for of course public health, and of course the durability and quality of developments.
Right. And for Drew, so Jojo has placed emphasis there on key points, particularly on choosing the right developer. So what would you give as advice for property buyers and investors when it comes to choosing that developer or the development that they want to invest in, especially in today's day and age?
For me, I always tell our clients that you have to consider your partners too. So basically, in investing, you have your partners. Number one is that your broker. Your broker is important for you to be able to identify. I mean, are you really capable of investing, right? And what are the options for you, the right options for you? Because again, not all can avail a certain development, right? So there should always be specific development for you, fit for your budget, for your preference, for your needs. And someone or advisor is very important for that one. That's your first partner. Second is the developer. You have to make sure that your partner developer is a reputable developer, like what Jojo has mentioned earlier. Because again, it's a long-term partnership, right? You will be staying there, or you will be renting it out, or you will be using it for 50 years, maybe or more. And it's important that the property is well kept. It's important that they deliver what they promised, and you get the value of money that you have paid for.
Right. Very good points there. And for Ken, so we've been talking about trends, but what do you think should be other trends that we should be watching out for the second half of 2021?
I think that there'll be continued use of mobile phones for commerce. So I think that mobility will be key. I think that we'll definitely see continued growth in the Visayas area. So luxury listings and the mid-market will continue to do well there and have good holding power. I think that demand for land will also increase outside of Metro Manila. So people looking for more space, long-term investment. That's one trend that we've seen recently. And also the younger demographic. So, 18 to about 44-year-olds contributing to the largest number of page views on Lamudi in the first half of 2021. Meaning to say that people are interested in what's out there. They know that real estate is resilient. They're looking to either make a move themselves or to make their first investment at a very young age, which I think is we've seen it pre-pandemic, but I think definitely the pandemic has been a catalyst for more interest from the younger demographic. One also thing that we did see is 2/3 of Lamudi site views were from the females. So it's an interesting demographic that I think we can look further into and into why, but perhaps families are expanding. They're looking to find places with amenities, places that are conducive to the lifestyle. Both points that Jojo and Drew had mentioned before, that these investments are have to do with not just the immediate future, but the long-term use for your family, which is maybe why we have a large female demographic looking for real estate as well. Those will be some trends that we see in the second half of 2021.
Right. And for Jojo, so let's say our viewers today are ready to make that purchase. Let's talk about mortgage rates this time. So how have mortgage rates moved since 2020? What does this mean for the condo buying market, do you think?
I think the trend worldwide has been decreasing interest rates. But of course, I think central banks and the Fed in the US, they're looking at that one. But if you would consider mortgage rates, interest rates worldwide, they're still low, which is a really good opportunity for buyers, especially if you are using financing from banks or other lenders. So definitely, it's a very good opportunity to acquire real estate using the banks or other lenders, right? So definitely it's there to stay. According to Bloomberg and other financial analysts, there might be some pressure to increase rates, but as they are now, they're still low. So very good to finance acquisition of real estate. And I think just to add, apart from the interest rates and trends, I just want to add to what Drew and Kenneth mentioned, innovation. So apart from the phones, apart from, of course, the financial, closing deals using your laptop, your phones has been here, and it would stay here definitely. And of course, the virtual tours, virtual meetings, signing contracts. So definitely companies, brokers, developers who are embracing innovation, they would definitely top not only the millennials, not only, and it's funny when you mentioned that, Kenneth, that 44 years old and above, we had a luxury survey, and a lot of 40 years old and below are buying luxury real estate as well worldwide. So it's really nice to hear that even the young people, so to speak, are buying real estate and luxury real estate.
Right. You can definitely see how the pandemic has really changed not just the way we do business, but our outlook on many things. Now, one last question for our panelists, and again, this goes out to everybody, starting with Drew. So the question is it the right time to make that real estate move, right? Given that we are still in the middle of a pandemic, what would you say to both first-time investors as well as seasoned investors if they're looking to make that decision in terms of investing in property?
Okay, we have to remember the rule of thumb in investing. It's always better to invest now. It's always now, regardless if it's pandemic or not, because again, pandemic will always be fleeting. Probably by 2022, pandemic is over, or there could be another pandemic, right? But then there's always a potential growth for any given situation. So if you invested now in a Unveil project, probably it will be delivered in 2025 or 2026. And by then, the market has grown so much already, and you have grown your money. So again, it's not about, it's always today. It's always now, which is the best time to invest in real estate. And again, there's a lot of opportunity right now. There's a lot of flexible payment terms. Before pre-pandemic, you can't invest in an Aveo project without the 10% of the 15 million, probably, or 20 million investment, right? So this is the best time to invest. At the same time, there's much more negotiation space for negotiation. So if you buy a secondary market, people are much more open for negotiation and for discussion. So it's always a better opportunity right now for us.
And Ken, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Drew said. I think that now is the best time to buy a property. The longer you wait, the more expensive things. You don't know how the market will turn, good or bad in the future. So if you hold onto a property now, you're in control of it. I think that the developers also recognize this and are making it very, very attractive to buy now, so you might not ever get terms like this ever again. We actually did an online housing fair in May, and developers were offering properties for purchase for only 11,000 pesos a month, as low as that, which is things that prices that we've never seen before in the Philippines. So it's super attractive. It's the products are, like we mentioned, if you pick a good developer in a good location, if you trust it, if it's right for your family, then you can't go wrong. So take advantage now, I would say.
Right. And Jojo, final advice for our viewers and investors and property buyers from you?
Yes, this is the best time to buy, and as I mentioned a while ago, rates might go up. I think worldwide Feds and central banks are looking at that one. So this is the perfect time to buy. At the same time, you have to look at your partners. Of course, you have to have a reputable platform like Lamudi, a reputable broker, and of course, partner like IQI, GUI, and of course, reputable and definitely quality developer like Alveo, and of course partner banks. There are a lot of partners because ultimately, whether it's for end use or investment, real estate as an asset class is you have to hold on to it. So you have to really find the right partners.